You know, when you think about countries that are sitting on a staggering amount of oil, Venezuela always comes up. But its story, well, it's a total paradox. It's a tale of unimaginable riches, but also incredible deep-seated challenges. So let's get into it and try to unravel this thing.
Okay, let's just start with a number that is almost impossible to wrap your head around. The International Energy Agency estimates that in Venezuela's Orinoco Belt, there are 1.2 trillion barrels of heavy oil and asphalt. Seriously, that is one of the biggest single piles of petroleum on the entire planet.
And that, right there, leads to the big question. If you have the world's largest reserves, what's the catch? Why hasn't this just been a one-way ticket to prosperity? Well, the problem, as we're about to see, is actually buried deep in the ground itself.
All right, so first up, let's talk about the part of the story everyone kind of knows, this massive reserve of heavy oil. It's defined Venezuela for over 100 years, but man, is it a challenge.
So, what even is heavy oil? I mean, it really just comes down to how thick it is. This isn't the kind of light, easy-flowing crude you see in movies. No way. This stuff is super dense, super sticky. Honestly, the best way to think about it is trying to suck molasses or even hot tar up through a very, very long straw from deep underground.
And just look at the scale we're dealing with here. The Orinoco heavy oil belt, you can see it on that map, it covers this enormous part of the country. This isn't just a handful of oil fields we're talking about, it's a gigantic, continuous geological feature. It really is a massive treasure chest of energy.
You know, the history of getting this stuff out of the ground has been just as messy as the oil itself. After it was discovered, foreign companies ran the show for decades. Then, bam, 1975, the whole industry gets nationalized. Then in the 90s, you have the apertura, the opening, and foreign investors are invited back in. But then, just a few years later, the pendulum swings right back to state control. This constant back and forth has had a huge impact on everything.
So let's just break down the hurdles. Getting this thick gunk out of the ground is super hard and costs a ton of money. You can't just pump it through a pipeline. It either has to be mixed with lighter stuff to thin it out, or it has to be sent to these really expensive, specialized facilities called upgraders. All of that complexity means the whole operation is incredibly vulnerable to swings in global oil prices and, as we just saw, to political chaos. But here's where the story takes a turn. What if that heavy oil, that massive, difficult resource, what if it isn't the only prize? What if hidden somewhere else, in a totally different kind of rock, there's another treasure waiting, one that scientists are only just now starting to figure out? And this is it. This is the La Luna Formation. I want you to just forget everything we just talked about, the thick, heavy crude of the Orinoco. This is a whole different animal. It's a type of rock called shale, and it might just hold the key to a brand new energy future for Venezuela.
Okay, so this is where our geologic detective story really kicks off. To figure out what the La Luna shale is hiding, scientists have to become investigators, hunting for microscopic clues that have been locked away in these rocks for millions and millions of years.
So first things first, you gotta understand what a source rock is. The easiest way to think of it is as the kitchen where oil and gas get made. It's this layer of rock that's just packed with ancient organic stuff. Over millions of years, heat and pressure cook that material and turn it into oil and gas. A great source rock is like a perfectly saturated stone sponge, just waiting for someone to come along and squeeze it.
So how do geologists figure this out? Well, they drill way down deep and pull out these long cylinders of rock. They're called cores. Then those cores go straight to the lab, where they are put through this whole battery of tests. Scientists analyze every little chemical detail to find the absolute sweet spots for oil and gas.
And one of the coolest tools they have is something called biomarker analysis. You can literally think of these as chemical fossils. They're these tiny molecules that have been preserved inside the rock, and they tell a story about what the world was like 90 million years ago. It's amazing.
And this is where it gets really exciting. By analyzing specific biomarkers called steranes, scientists can basically run a DNA test on the rock. And for the La Luna Formation, the results were crystal clear. The organic material in there came from ancient marine algae and plankton. And that is the absolute perfect recipe for cooking up high-quality oil and gas.
The clues are right there under the microscope, too. You can actually see the fine layers where all that organic gunk was deposited eons ago. And even better, they can see these tiny porous networks within the rock. You can see them here in blue, and those little pockets are exactly what you need to trap and store that valuable oil and gas.
Look, the science on this is pretty clear. The actual researchers who did this work concluded that the La Luna Formation shows, and I'm quoting here, good potential.
They said it has good organic matter content and high prospectivity. The geologic detectives, well, they found their smoking gun.
So we have here our two incredible but completely different energy treasures in one country. One is a known commodity, but it's a real beast to get to. The other is bursting with potential, but it's basically untouched. That duality right there sets up a really complex and uncertain future.
And this really lays it all out. You've got the Orinoco heavy oil on one side. We know it's there, there's a ton of it. But the challenges are huge. The tech, the cost, the politics. And then on the other side, you've got the La Luna shale. It's all about potential, higher quality oil, but to get it, you need incredibly advanced science and cutting-edge drilling technology that's more common in places like the US.
So what's the big takeaway from all this? It's that just having oil in the ground doesn't automatically make you rich. It's not just about how much you have. The type of oil you have, whether it's super heavy or trapped in shale, matters immensely. And at the end of the day, you can have all the oil in the world, but it's technology, economics, and politics that are the real keys that unlock it.
So there you have it. Venezuela is sitting on not one, but two potentially world-class energy prizes. Its very rocks hold the secrets to a deep geologic past and maybe the fuel for a radically different future. But the ultimate question, the one nobody has an answer to, is this: will anyone ever find the right keys to unlock it all?